Welcome to the channel, viewers. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, Theologist, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. We are looking at Too Close for Comfort, the damage caused by covert emotional incest. If you haven't subscribed to the channels already, please do so. Let's get into it, viewers. This is an article by Alexandra Barley. It's 8 minutes of reading. It was on June 15th, 2023, which is only almost 10 days ago. I'll put the link to this in the description below. There is a listening aspect to this. But we'll read it. Too Close for Comfort, the damage caused by covert incest. The child's love for their parents is strong, but what happens when this natural bond is exploited by a parent unable or unwilling to set appropriate boundaries? And remember, boundaries, viewers, is what this is all about. People just do not want to set boundaries. Survivors of childhood covert emotional abuse should know about the impacts of covert emotional incest. A healthy emotional bond between a parent and child should be close and loving, with children able to rely on and trust their parents for emotional support. However, when the parent relies on the child to fulfill their emotional needs, then that closeness can become suffocating and abusive. The lack of appropriate boundaries in covert incest creates an emotional burden that lasts into adulthood and can last right through a person's life. I've heard of stories of 50-year-old men visiting their mother once, twice a week, staying overnight and then returning to their wives. This can result in a variety of problems with intimacy and relationships, also known as incest syndrome. Emotional incest syndrome. What does covert emotional incest mean? Covert emotional incest, also known as emotional incest, is a specific type of emotional abuse in which a parent relies on a child for emotional support, affirmation, and care that should be provided by a spouse. Unlike overt incest or overt sexual abuse, signs of emotional or covert incest do not involve physical touching, but instead manifest as non-physical sexual behavior between two relatives. Covert incest or emotional incest signs can include behaviors like: number 1, a type of sexual abuse known as covert sexual abuse, such as age-inappropriate sex talk from the parent to the child, or exposure to sexually explicit content. Number 2, inappropriate nicknames for a child, such as boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, lover, sweetie, honey, doll, etc. Number 3, and this isn't uncommon, constant demands from the parent for attention or the child for attention, security, or emotional needs to be provided by the child. Number 4, body shaming or commenting on a child's developing body, particularly in a sexualized manner, which is another form of covert sexual abuse. And number 5, lack of privacy, boundaries, such as engaging in sexual behavior in front of a child or watching a child undress. With covert emotional incest, emotional boundaries between a parent and child are not blurred, but completely crossed. There are none. Children may feel icky and trapped in emotionally incestuous relationships as a parent constantly relies on them as a surrogate spouse for the emotional support that should be given by an adult or significant other to the other adult. In other words, in her own words, a survivor of covert emotional incest says, in a candid post published on The Mighty, contributor Monica Sedekov describes her experience with covert incest. In my personal case, my parents were divorced by the time I was 3. My father was completely out of the picture, and what emerged was a very unhealthy and meshed relationship between my mother and I. Aside from feeling afraid to have any needs because I didn't want to overwhelm my mother, who was prone to fits of self-harming behavior and panic attacks, I squelched all of my negative emotions because I was always told, don't be mad at me or don't be sad because it makes me sad. However, the worst aspect of this unhealthy relationship exhibited was that I was exposed to sex talk from a very young age. I knew all about sex by the age of 5 and was aware of every man my mum slept with, how the sex was, and details thereof. As I got older, this boundary became even more blurred when it came to privacy. I was often told that she was entitled to look at me naked because I came out of her body, as if that ascribed some kind of ownership of my body. What are drivers of covert incest? Parents who display such abnormal behavior in their relationships with their children are clearly grappling with other issues. There are several factors that play into this damaging type of parentification of children, which include breakdown or absence of adult relationship. And this becomes repetitive because the covert emotional incest will undermine all future relationships. Divorce, separation, or the lack of an emotional relationship with another adult may result in a parent inappropriately leading their child for emotional connection and affirmation instead of building another support system. Often those who have experienced covert incest report this as being a precursor for emotional abuse. Historical issues with their families. Adults who engage in covert incest may have experienced emotional incest themselves as children, and therefore expect such emotional entanglement as a normal part of a parent-child relationship. This is also known as generational enmeshment. Conversely, an adult who has had a distant, neglectful, or absent relationship with family may overcorrect with their child, stepping over necessary boundaries and relying on that child to fill in the gaps in their own life. Underlying personality issues. Certain personality disorders, particularly narcissistic personality disorder, can predispose an adult to engaging in covert incest, and I've said this before. This is due to the strong sense of personal entitlement that is part of the narcissistic personality disorder, making the adult feel as if it is perfectly acceptable to demand the complete emotional support and attention of their child. Additionally, individuals who are highly emotionally dependent may also be prone to covert emotional incest. All grown up but still stuck, the aftermath of covert emotional incest. As children grow into adults, there may be less of an icky or weird feeling about their parents' behaviour, and more of a feeling of being overburdened by it. This is where the sexual inappropriateness of covert incest transitions into more of a general enmeshment. But I've seen adult boys, adult men, manifest like infantile children in opposition to their mother's relationship. You might feel frustrated, over-involved, and totally obligated in your relationship with your parent, or have sensed that your family dynamics are dysfunctional. While distant, estrangement or death may offer temporary relief on some level, the long-term impacts of covert emotional incest on intimate adult relationships are significant. In other words, it ripples through everything and affects everything. Effects on childhood covert incest on adults. Covert emotional incest that occurs during childhood or adolescence can lead to intimacy disorders, even, on the other hand, sexual addiction, relationship problems, and emotional distancing. Wow, how confusing is that? Imagine having sexual addiction and emotional distancing. And I've seen this with the single mothers. They have got a sexual addiction, but they distance themselves emotionally, which brings relationship problems. Trust and closeness issues can drive a fear of intimacy, leaving you feeling overwhelmed and overly responsible even early on in a relationship. Some prefer fleeting or even anonymous sexual encounters to the perceived baggage of a relationship, and this is because they can go back into and stay in the security of or the familiarity of the covert emotional incestual relationship. Okay, common feelings or issues among adult survivors of covert incest include: number 1, anger or shame. Number 2, guilt over leaving the parent. And the parent can suffer guilt over being with a partner and not the child. Number 3, persistent feelings of insecurity or inadequacy. You'll often hear them say, "I'm not worthy." Number 4, difficulty setting healthy boundaries. Number 5, difficulty in engaging in appropriate behavior with their own children and maintaining a normal adult-child relationship. And number 6, sexual dysfunction. Breaking free, how to heal. Healing from the effects of covert incest is absolutely possible and is generally best done with professional support. An experienced therapist can help you understand the signs of emotional incest, guide you through your past trauma, unravel its effects on your life and current relationships, and help you develop ways to break free from problematic thoughts or behaviors. With right support, you can successfully rediscover yourself, learn how to set appropriate boundaries, and move forward in healthy, fulfilling relationships. A highly effective holistic treatment approach. At the Dawn, we have designed our program to encompass, and this must be this place. So I might just jump that. Well, let's just read it. It might be something. Healing trauma and learning to thrive at Mental Health Retreat, Thailand. At the Dawn Wellness Centre and Rehab, Thailand, we offer a specialised and extremely effective trauma and PTSD retreat treatment program for individuals struggling with traumatic experiences, including the lasting effects of childhood trauma, such as covert emotional incest. We have a fully informed team of trauma specialists led by the internationally renowned addicted and trauma specialist David Smallwood. A highly effective holistic treatment approach. At the Dawn, we have designed our program to encompass both psychological and physical components for truly holistic healing, which includes individual and support group sessions. Some key components of our program include trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, trauma reduction therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, trauma release exercises, and transcranial magnetic stimulation. A safe haven, trauma and PTSD retreat in Thailand. Located on the outskirts of Chiang Mai, along the banks of the Ping River, the Dawn is an oasis of peace surrounded by picturesque rice fields and traditional Thai villages. Just an hour's flight from the capital city of Bangkok, the Dawn is a world away from the stresses that contribute to your condition. You will immediately feel comfortable and safe at the Dawn, which in turn enables you to focus completely on your recovery. Call us today to learn more about how you can heal and reclaim your life at the Dawn.